short, I am sitting here with Mina LaFleur, who is the owner and corsetiere of L'Atelier de LaFleur. So thank you for having me in your lovely studio.
Such a pleasure.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a few questions about your business. Many people know that you are also a burlesque dancer and performer. So what came first, your sewing career or your performance career?
Definitely the sewing. I've been sewing for as long as I can remember, since my really early teens, and possibly even before that, because I come from the goth scene where I wanted these really expensive clothes. I really couldn't afford to buy very many of them, and so I ended up sewing out of necessity to compensate for my beer bottle pockets. And I got into performing quite a few years later when I was, I believe, just after my 20th birthday. 19th or 20th birthday.
So do you make all of your costumes when you're performing?
Yes. Aside from a very few pieces, if I could learn to make shoes, I would do that as well. But yeah, almost everything that I wear on stage I made myself, from headpieces to the corsetry to the skirts and tops as well.
That's awesome. So I was reading your biography and I read that you actually worked for Cirque du Soleil. So how was that? Was it fun? Was it stressful?
A combination of both. It's pretty much the most demanding job I've ever had, aside from working for myself. And I did that for 3 years, and people hear Cirque du Soleil and they have this image of these bright, colorful costumes, and there certainly is that, but there's another element too where there's a lot of, I guess in other productions what you would consider the chorus, but it seems insulting to call their performers that. They're artists, and all of them do amazing things. So for the first part of my job working there, I ended up just sewing olive drab elastic like that. And I did that for a while, and I kind of earned my stripes and was trusted to do more exciting things. I had the opportunity to go and train with their millinery department in Montreal at their headquarters, and that was a fantastic, if stressful, experience where everything was very scrutinized. But I learned so much, and I learned that there are definitely other ways of doing things. Tradition is not the be-all and end-all of materials and construction methods. So that was really interesting. But they have a serious quality control there. Mm-hmm. Everything is to the millimeter with the sewing, so it all goes through quality control, and things do get sent back. With notes. So to get something back that you made for the first time with something that just says like it was perfect, that's like an extreme gold star. Yes. So you keep those notes. They're really exciting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was. I'll never forget that. I learned so much working there, and having the opportunity to go and learn things directly from the people at the headquarters and meet some of the other artisans was really, really amazing.
Cool. So were you only responsible for making the costume, or did you have to do a lot of mending?
Very rarely with the mending. They do have people who work on the show that do the mending. Much like film, they need 3 copies of every costume at a time, so that they have one that they're wearing that night, one that's in the wash, and one that can be used in an emergency if something fails with one of the other costumes. So I don't have a lot of insight as to what they do on the show, but I imagine there are people furiously hand sewing things or working at odd hours to repair costumes that we've made, but we tend to do everything from scratch.
So one question that I have to ask, because this is a corsetry channel, but do any of the performers wear corsets on the show?
There are some. They might not be corsets the way that you and I sort of know corsets, but there are a lot of sort of bustier things. I worked primarily for the first little while in a show called Viva Elvis, and some of the dancers, I keep calling them dancers, but really they're artists. The artists wear, some of them work with bustiers, and so we sometimes would be refashioning bras or making things totally from scratch. So a lot of it's sort of support wear and boning things to give them the proper support where they still have the illusion of being a sort of seamless piece. There was one really, really fun corset I got to make though, which was it was designed by Terry Mugler, who did all of the designs for Humanity. So the wing-hipped corsets that he's famous for, I got to make one, which was really, really cool, and kind of enlightened me again that there's not just one way to do things. It was very different from my sewing methods, and just working on the wing-hip design, it was a wow moment for me, and I definitely took pictures to tuck away and look at later.
Before I even knew you as a corsetiere, a couple of years ago, I saw you actually on a TV show, a local reality show that was called ReVamped, and it was about these girls who were kind of building their confidence and learning a little bit about burlesque. So
Right.
how was your experience being a guest judge on that show?
It was my first foray into reality TV, and so it was really interesting to see what actually goes on, like how many takes they do with things. And I know that sort of destroys the illusion of reality TV a little bit, but I think we all probably are aware that it's not as real as they try to make it seem. But I mean, the girls, it seemed to me by the end, were really great friends. The hosts and the other people, like the nutritionist and the Roland, the person that was doing their workout regime, were it seemed like they had really bonded with the girls. So I would say that part of it is totally genuine, and I dealt with those people to some degree myself. And it was a very warm atmosphere for TV. It was really, really comfortable.
So you think that it was done respectfully and the
I do.
structure?
That said, I don't think I could ever have been anything other than a guest judge on that show. I don't have the stamina to have been one of the contestants. It wasn't a vote-off show, but you know, I don't think I could have been one of the ones that was actually going through the whole process. It was obviously very emotional, very intense. Not only are you dealing with the emotional aspects of relationship issues, but also you're trying to change your life, your body, and sometimes kick habits like smoking and no drinking, and you know, like all of that. I think is probably just pressure I can't really imagine. But being a guest judge is, I would say, the easier part of the deal.
So I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I'm actually wearing one of Mina's works right now, and it's gorgeous, by the way. And magically conjured on your lap there is your famous Calla Lily corset. So as a corsetiere, how do you think your work stands out? Do you have any particular silhouettes or embellishment that you do that is, I guess, strictly LaFleur?
Well, it's really the question, isn't it? I mean, 10 years ago, we thought there was a corset revival and a resurgence, and we had no idea back then how big it was going to be. And today, there's such a market for it that there are also so many talented corsetieres coming out, and even people that are just learning have turned out some absolutely gorgeous things. And so I try to keep things from being too historical, but still I take a lot from historical pieces. Like, for example, I think the single casings can lend a really sort of vintage, antique air to a corset. I love flossing, which the piece you're wearing has some flossing that's sort of half historical, half musical, my idea type of thing. The cockade on this piece is definitely a nod to historical pieces, but I think whereas a lot of companies use bows that are really indicative of antique pieces, this is kind of, it's not, I would never say it's mine, but you know, it's kind of something that I've started to do a lot of, and it's been really well received. And I've tried to develop hem shapes that are a little bit atypical because there are so many corsetieres and so many companies, and I love what I'm seeing. I just really would like to be a little bit different. I'm also going to be focusing more on one-of-a-kind pieces because I have so many materials that are available to me, and it's really hard to represent them all. And I'm one lady that is trying to photograph her work and put it out there, and so I really am more interested in working with really luxury materials, and getting away from some things that are more commonly used. But I will still probably be doing some of that as well. It's more about what the customer wants as well.
Some of my viewers who are more interested in the corset making side of this channel would love to know what sort of tools and equipment you use in your work. And in particular, is there one tool that you really can't live without?
Well, I am proud of my industrial machine that I have over there, which is a Juki DDL 5530, and it's sort of new to me though, so I can say that you can do pretty incredible things on a domestic machine as long as it's, you know, I made sure I had one that had metal parts in it. It's lasted me a very, very long time, and it's really, you know, it's not a brand name to brag about by any means, so you can do impressive things with a domestic as long as, you know, you're careful and you're making sure you use the right needles and things. As far as equipment that I don't think I could do without, there are things that make your life easier and there are things that make your work better, and you can certainly hand set grommets with your hammer tools and do a beautiful job, but I don't think I can do without my hand press. I love it. It makes my job so much easier. It saves my hands, and on my wish list is something that will a tool will tip my bones for me and cut them at the same time, because I do tip all my bones by hand and they're all cut to length. So that's something that it's not my favorite part, but hopefully soon it will be such a tedious task.
Without giving away any of your trade secrets, do you have any tips for budding corsetiers who are just learning?
Well, there are so many pattern companies out there now that are actually producing really, really good patterns for people who are new to corset making. I would say one thing I noticed a lot on communities and things like that, people that were sort of well-intentioned were also saying, you know, you can never do this, or don't ever do that, that way is wrong, and I would always kind of want to jump in there and go, well, it's not wrong. There are a lot of different ways to do things, and I would say if you have a new way of doing something, or a way that somebody says is wrong, but you have reasons to believe that it will work out really well, give it a try. I don't think there's anything wrong with not using an awl to make your grommet holes. I know a lot of people that don't do it that way, and their work is flawless. So I would say that any new technique that you're going to try, give it a good test run and see how it flies, and if it works out really well, then there's no reason that you can't make that a legitimate way of doing something. So.
That is one thing that actually initially had drawn me to corsets, because with my corset reviews it shows how many different types of construction methods there are, how many different types of silhouettes there are, and you know, there's almost an unlimited number of different ways to do things, right, to construct a corset or different.
They say that you can't use any stretchy fabrics, but I've seen beautiful work done with stretch velvet. I'm, for example, right now wearing like a more girdle style corset that's made with a stretchy girdle mesh, but it's reinforced at the waist and it's got all steel boning in it, boning much like that. So, and I'm super comfortable. So yeah, there are lots of different materials and things that you can use that people have tisk with.
Well, thank you for answering all of my questions.
Thank you for coming.
And I invite you to go to L'Atelier de LaFleur.ca and see some of Mina's amazing work. I am commissioning a corset from her, so check out the review that might be coming up in the next month or two. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye. Bye. Oh, that's so sweet. And that's Mina LaFleur, the company mascot.